I drank all my husband's like expensive whiskey. That was May 21st, that morning that I woke up and he said that to me, are you drinking again? And I was done. I was done. I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was so scared of like what the future held, but I knew at the rate I was going, I couldn't save my dad. In his death, I really feel like, and my cousin and I got really emotional about this, but I feel like in his death, he gave me that gift. He gave me that gift that this is not what might happen, Megan. This is what's gonna happen to you. Don't follow in my footsteps.
Welcome back to another episode of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Today we've got my friend Megan with us. And this is a real story about mommy wine culture, drinking in secret, and what happens when alcohol goes from something social to something you can't stop. Megan opens up about hitting her breaking point and how she finally found a way out. If you haven't noticed yet, I'm new on YouTube, but we have over 260 of these stories wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're enjoying the show, please subscribe. And this is Megan's story on the Sober Motivation Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Today we've got my friend Megan with us. Megan, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. A long time coming for us to meet on the podcast, I feel, so I'm happy it's here.
I know. I'm so happy to be here. This is really kind of a full circle moment for me because the first time I tried to get sober is when I just Googled sober podcast, and yours was the first one that came up. And I started listening to your podcast. So to actually be here on your podcast is kind of a pinch me moment.
It's so wild. I love those stories where people stumble across the podcast. And then like at first, when I first started the podcast, way off topic here, but this wasn't like a vision. I didn't know because I didn't have episodes and didn't have listeners. And it was just kind of like people I knew or people I could reach out to. But at this point, it's so cool because there's people who have enjoyed the show that have been inspired or motivated that come on and share their story as well. So that's incredible. What was it like for you growing up?
So I grew up down in Southern California in a beautiful town, beach town called Manhattan Beach. And when I look back, it's mixed with periods of just an idyllic childhood, but also some moments of chaos. I have an older brother who's 12 years older than me. He's my half brother. My mom was married before. And then my sister's 5 years younger. And early childhood, my brother had his own battle with addiction and was bodybuilding and just a big guy with a lot of emotions at that time and a lot of friction with my dad, who tragically passed away of alcoholism. But I think he was struggling with my brother. So my parents stayed married. They were married until my dad passed away. And from the outside, we had a beautiful family. But there was kind of these undertones of chaos in the household. And there was a lot of yelling between my dad and my brother and my poor mom. She was so stuck in the middle of trying to protect my brother, but defend my dad. And there were lots of holes punched in walls. I remember my brother was a big guy. He punched a hole in a wall. No, didn't do anything to himself, but my dad punched a hole in the wall. He must have hit a stud and he broke his hand. Lots of things thrown. I remember coffee mugs broken, and my brother kicked down our front door. We had this huge, big, dark blue door, and we had cardboard for a door for a while. I remember the wind like whistling through there. Those moments mixed in with my brother taking me to the beach with his girlfriend, and I fell in love with horses at a pretty young age. But at the age of 7, my brother, he was getting in trouble. He got arrested a few times, and then it was that third strike law that was in place. So I was born in 78, so this would have been 85 if I'm doing my math right. But he got arrested and sent to prison for 5 years. And that had a huge impact on me. My sister was only 2. And here's my brother, who's my everything. I just adored him. He'd hold his arms out like this and I could hang on them. He was a big bodybuilder. And to see him be taken away, he said one of his rock bottom moments was me hanging onto his leg, crying, screaming and crying as he was being pulled and taken away. And I didn't see him for 5 years. And I don't remember any conversations with my mom, and my dad about that experience, but I imagine I have a 6-year-old now, and I know I mean, you can't really go into too much detail with that age level. So I just didn't understand. And I think I thought he was never coming back. So that was really challenging. And
Yeah.
while he was gone, I think, my parents maybe tried to make up for that early chaos. We had, a lot of family trips. We did a lot of camping. My dad was that was when he was in his element, when we were camping. My parents, we used to go with other families, lots of families together. But there was always booze. My mom liked her Miller. She liked her Miller High Life. She had one every evening, and my dad really liked his wine, his boxed wine, Franzia. It was, I grew up with it. It was around. I remember from a young age liking the taste of beer. I don't know, the metallic. My mom said I used to always want to chew on keys when I was little. I have no idea if there's any. Anyways, but I grew up with it in our house. We would have parties. It was always a celebratory thing. And there was this kind of unsaid, work hard, play hard, as long as everyone is, doing their thing to be successful in life. The drinking part, the play hard part was okay. Yeah, so those years in between those 5 years before junior high were I think a lot of making up for some chaos. So lots of beach time. I got into horseback riding. But I would say fast forward to junior high is when a big like switch happened with me, and I probably would have been diagnosed with like a severe anxiety disorder. I don't know. At the time, I just thought it's my age. We went from elementary school to a school that our junior high started seventh and eighth grade was a mix of like, I don't know, I think at least 3 or 4 elementary schools. So I went from knowing everyone to like little fish in a big pond. So I had a lot of anxiety, and I didn't grow up doing like sports, so to speak, like soccer or volleyball. Beach volleyball was really big where I grew up. So to try to start playing in junior high, I would have been way too behind. But I ended up gravitating towards like the party crowd. So I'll never forget. I think it feels like the first drunk that I had, but I think it was eighth grade, actually. My mom's probably going to be horrified, but we were at a friend's house, and it was Boone's Strawberry Hill. I don't know. There's probably some listeners out there that know what that is.
Yeah.
It was a big thing. So this is the early 90s. I think I was in junior high, 90 and 91. But I drank a bottle of Boone's Strawberry Hill and got so sick, so sick. But the euphoria from that and the feeling of my mind racing a million miles an hour, what do people think of me? Are they going to like me? I always had that hamster wheel in my head, and that relief from alcohol was noticeable. And then I started to realize, as these drinking situations increased down in Southern California, and I'm sure it seems like I hear this in a lot of stories. I mean, it was just easy to get access to in high school. We always were able to get it from a parent's house, or there were older kids that had a fake ID, but it became something we did on the weekends. So in high school, I figured out that I could drink pretty good. I wasn't the girl that had like 2 beers and passed out throwing up in the bathroom and had to be carried out. And that became like a badge of honor, a source of pride for me. I became the beer bong queen. And I remember there was one summer, there were 3 parties at the same house, and I would go to Home Depot and make a beer bong, and it would get stolen because it was so good. Everyone wanted it. So I'd have to go back. And I remember they'd laugh at me like, you were just here. I could tell you the like tube size, all the little parts I can't remember now. And then at the senior breakfast, oh, and meanwhile in high school, I got like straight A's. I had a few There was maybe one or two incidents where I got caught drinking, but I don't remember getting too many consequences when I got home. I just went straight up to my room and slammed my door like I was mad, but I wasn't drinking. And I we got pulled over in a car once. The driver was sober, but we were all drinking and the parents all had to come and get us. I don't remember getting in too much trouble about that either because I maintained good grades. I did activities. So that at senior breakfast, I got my award was biggest partier. I was the girl, and then there was a gentleman that got his award for the boys. And I was like these thick beer goggles. And the principal, I used to babysit for him and his five boys. And I remember being horrified picking up this gift, like, oh my gosh, I don't want anyone to know. I'm like, I'm the studious girl, not the party girl. That was high school. And then kind of college, I was very studious. I went to Cal Poly, where I ironically met my husband, but we were just friends. And I was a weekend warrior, but I got really good grades. I did a study abroad in New Zealand and had a great time. I mean, we all did our weekend warrior stuff, but didn't affect school. I still got really good grades living abroad. Graduated and went to grad school, and here we are. As long as I keep pushing the academic bar, I'm okay. And grad school, I ran into my now husband at a bar in a town next door. We recognized each other. It took us a while to figure out where we knew each other from, and that kind of was how our relationship started. But he told this whole story at our wedding. I had a big long lead up about how we actually came to be at the same place on that day. Of course, that part's kind of a cute story, but he at the wedding was like, I found her in a bar, and everyone laughs and thinks that's funny. And we had, before we started having kids, I mean, we kind of prided myself on these adventures that we would have, but they were all around alcohol. Like we
Yeah.
would go houseboating. My 30th birthday party, we got two houseboats. And I'll tell you, I remember the amount of booze that we would go to Costco and buy. My husband would be like, are you sure we need all this? And my viewpoint was always, oh, well, I'd rather have too much than not enough. On my bachelorette party was in Vegas. I had 16 girls. We all brought costumes every night. One night was like Halloween-ish type costumes. The next night was I had a gold dress and they all had silver dresses. I mean, we were noticeable there in Vegas. I always wanted to, if I was coming to the party, it was like, okay, it's going to be wild, but
Yeah.
also not getting necessarily in trouble. I wouldn't say there were like, I ever got during those years. So this was Rod and I met in 2004 and got married in 2009, started having kids in 2014. So this whole time, every vacation we went on was all inclusive, or we would get the drink package when we were on a cruise. I can't tell you how many times, especially on vacation, we'd have some kind of excursion booked, and I'd wake up so hungover, just hating myself, like couldn't wait for the excursion to be over so that we have some excuse to go drink again. But that,
Yeah.
I would say, on our honeymoon, I had gotten my master's and I was working in a research lab in the local vet school, and decided to change my career, which my husband was like, you already have 2 degrees, you've done all the schooling, and you want to go back. And I just thought, where could I was always in the sciences. I was animal science with an emphasis in reproductive biology, so human fertility clinic stuff, but with animals. And I decided maybe nursing. I could apply my knowledge of science with people because I feel like I'm a people person. Maybe I want to be a labor and delivery nurse. So there I go again. Once I get an idea, and we got home from there, and I started taking my prereqs, applied to a program, and I did an accelerated program, and this was 2011, and then got my bachelor's in science of nursing. So I started that job, labor and delivery, in March of 2012, and it had to be night shift. And that was hard for me because I was a morning person. I would wake up at 5 o'clock pretty much every morning during the week, and I swam with our local masters swim team. They're like little ways to swim either competitively or for fitness or for fun all over the United States. So I would swim from 6 to 7, and then I'd get ready for work, ride my bike to my lab job, and that was my daily routine. Now I'm a nurse and I'm working 3 nights a week, 12-hour shifts, and I'm starting a new career that also had its stress because I was kind of at the top of my game, and then now I'm starting over. So I can see that's where I was before. I felt like drinking, like check that box off for fun. I was a happy drunk. I was always drinking to celebrate. I wasn't drinking at stuff, and I started drinking at my stress, I guess is how I like to put it. The
Yeah.
stress trying to flop back and forth from nights to days. I would feel so gross on like a conversion day. I'm like, oh, if I just have a drink, because I will. And I should have said this too. I'm one of those people that will have a beer or a glass of wine, and it's like I had a cup of coffee. Like my energy would go up here. And I thought that happened to everyone. But in
Yeah.
my journey now, I realize it doesn't, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
makes my husband fall asleep on the couch. And I always thought that was so weird. But when I
Just
was tired, sorry.
oh god. No, I just want to go back a little bit to
Oh, sorry.
and give you a break here. Doing a great job, by the way. But I'm curious to go back to
Yeah.
to a few things, right? Growing up in chaos, how did that affect you as your life moves forward? And the other thing that I'm curious for is when you show up, you're just like the life of the party, entertaining. When you peel back the layers to that, what do you think it is? Like, what do you think kind of pushed you in sort of that direction to sort of have that identity or that role? I mean, two things there, but
Yeah. Shoot, I'm glad you brought that up because I about the childhood that so I feel like in those chaotic moments that I was exposed to, I kind of created this persona where I didn't want to contribute to the chaos. I didn't want to make anything worse. And then, my brother had his own battles and his own demons, and that was hard for my parents. And then my sister, I love her to death. And actually, I think we're both really emotionally sensitive women, but I think we're a lot alike, but I hid mine. And so growing up, I felt like I remember always telling her, you just got to toughen up. You got to toughen up. So I took on this identity of like, Megan will be okay. She's not going to contribute to any more chaos in the family. She can handle it. She'll be the big sister. She'll take care of everything. And I also became very good at like reading the room and emotions. My dad was like really moody. He would either be really happy, which was probably when he was drinking, or really edgy. And I was really good at like when he was edgy, I always felt like, okay, what did I do? How can I make it better? So maybe that started forming that people pleasing part of me, because when my dad was in a good mood, we were all in a good mood. The vacations that were the best were when dad was happy and laughing. I mean, we had vacations where he would just stay in the hotel room. We had vacations he didn't even go on because he was too edgy and anxious to go. Like he would lock himself in his room. I'd have to knock on the door to talk to him and ask him things. And I just thought all that was normal. So I became someone who felt like they couldn't be emotional. Like I had to be the tough one. I had to be in control. Megan's got this. She's the stable one. She can handle it. And then I also became like a people pleaser. The chaos was so uncomfortable for me. I wanted everyone to be happy. I wanted my dad to be happy all the
right.
time. So I think that fueled my drinking quite a bit.
It's even when like I hear a lot of people share a story like this of growing up with a lot of chaos, and then they find themselves maybe starting to wear different masks or putting their own needs aside, right? Like at this point, it sounds like your own needs, maybe as a younger person, 5 years old, 7 years old, 10 years old, you're not even recognizing them, but maybe that's not getting met. I mean, it takes so much effort just to try to be like quote unquote good, do well in school, like try to be perfect, not to cause any more friction. I mean, basically, like, I don't know, this could be way off, but basically, like, grow up and not be a kid. I'm thinking of like my kids, like they're always causing friction. Like, and my wife tells me like, they're kids. This is their childhood, have patience with them and everything they're doing. But it kind of sounds like what you're sharing there is like growing up really quick. Your brother too is, gone to prison and you look up to him so much and you guys have an incredible relationship and that's kind of gone. You're in the middle too here of the pack. So many things that are really interesting, about those earlier days of your life. And I think it shapes us in one way or another, moving forward about how we process things and how our nervous system sort of develops.
Yeah. Yeah. When I, reflecting back on my journey as I think of telling my story, it feels like hindsight is 2020. It's like I can just see it ramping up from conditions that I adore my parents. They were both very loving and my dad unfortunately had this disease he just couldn't beat. And they did the best they could with what they had. And it was a hard deck. There weren't a lot of people that knew what was happening in our house. We went to church every Sunday and we went down to the beach and we had, a beautiful home on kind of a pretty popular street. And we kept up that perception from the outside, but we were all dealing with, on some level, a lot of chaos. And to add to that too, in the middle, like with junior high, was when my brother got out of prison. And I can't tell you how, like, to feel like somebody, and I know this is going to make him emotional, but like to feel like somebody kind of had almost died. Like that's almost how I felt when he was gone because I was 7. And then to have him come back at the age of 12 it was such a overwhelming experience, all those feelings like, is he really here? We did this trip to Magic Mountain, just the two of us, that I'll never forget. We sang this song, John Bon Jovi, I'll Be There For You. And he sounded like a dying dog, but I kept that tape and I loved that tape. And then he really struggled. He was okay with me sharing this part of his journey too, because I am so darn proud of him for his recovery. But he really struggled when he got out of prison. There are not a lot of programs to help people when they get out. And he did not change his group of friends. And so he went back to using and bad behavior and was in and out of my life. So now there's kind of this, okay, he came back, but is he really here? Some abandonment. That was hard too. And that was all happening, in junior high and high school. But the drinking, I think being able to wear that carefree mask while I was drinking, like I was such a stress case. I was such a worrywart. I worried about everything. Like I just couldn't shut my brain off. But when I was drinking, that all quieted and I could be the Megan who didn't care, I don't know if we can say bad words. Can I say bad words?
Yeah.
I could be the Megan who didn't give a shit. I just didn't give a shit. And I could let that happiness out and turn off that, I could be unapologetically me. I mean, I thought I was being me, but I was always like the daredevil. I mean, we would go and jump off our pier. I was a good swimmer and there were a lot of people that were scared. The boys would do it. There were a lot of girls that were too scared to do it. Some of them did it with me, but we'd run down the pier at night. Half the time we were drinking. It's at the time I think it was a $200 or $300 ticket if you got caught jumping off the pier into the ocean. I never cared. I would do it. I would jump off big high. Oh, where's that? Oh, why is my brain? Lake Havasu. Lake Havasu had Copper Canyon, and that cliff was super high. And Megan wants to go jump off it. I'm going to go jump off it. It took away. I mean, I'm kind of a daredevil, anyways, but I was game for anything. I could keep up with the boys. I was a keg stand just in my, I don't know how, that was a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I was down in Manhattan Beach it was kind of like a high school reunion. And here I was doing a cake stand, and all the guys held me up. I was wearing a damn skirt. They all held me up and they were like, yeah, go Megan. That kind of response, I just craved feeling, I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be liked.
Yeah.
And when I had my drinking hat on, I felt like I was.
Yeah. That's relatable. I mean, for me, in different ways too, but I hear a lot of stories of that too, of just wanting to fit in, to be liked, a sense of belonging. And sort of the drinking is fueled by not having a sense of belonging. And then we start drinking and all of this stuff opens up to us. And it's like, okay, this makes a whole ton of sense. Going back in your story a little bit too, sharing a little bit about your dad struggling. Some people share that seeing their parents or somebody close to them growing up turned them off to the idea of drinking altogether. What was sort of your experience, seeing that growing up, maybe not understanding completely at times what all the moving parts were, but did it change sort of your perception of things or no?
That's a good question. I think he didn't. I feel like my perception of the negative drinking, because I didn't understand it when I was little, like when he was moody. And in hindsight, I understand that was the hangover that was affecting his own anxiety. I mostly associated the drinking with him being happy ironically, when I was younger, because we would have family parties. His brother my uncle Dan the two of them would have these infectious laughs. I mean, you could not laugh when you were around them. It was impossible. And so I associated joy at that time. And when that turned for me, I would say kind of in college, when my sister, like I left, my sister she was exposed to a lot more of the negative part because she stayed in the house and had to drive him around a lot while he was too drunk. And I started to see a lot of the negative stuff after I left. Like he would have these binges, and that he wouldn't. I don't know. I always thought, I don't drink like that. I don't binge and then throw up and have all these GI problems and then lock myself in my room for a week to recover. I don't drink like that. So he's got the problem, not me. I can shut it down. I just go drink for the weekends and then I'm good during the week while I'm working. I just thought, I don't have a problem if I'm not like him. And my first year in nursing school, my mom told me how bad it was, how bad he was drinking. And I hopped on a plane. I had my nursing salary. I mean, I literally bought a ticket that day and flew home. And we filled up 3 big trash cans full of bottles that were all over the room. And the way he looked, I thought maybe he had internal hemorrhaging. I called 911. And the fire department, the whole shebang showed up. Of course, one of the firefighters was someone I went to high school with, which was so embarrassing. They, he turned on that, as us alcoholics can do, like to hide it. He turned on that I'm okay, and they couldn't take him against his will. I ended up later on promising him booze on the way to the ER. I gave him like a to-go mug of wine. I got him in the ER because I was worried. I thought he was going to, I don't know, have a seizure. Something bad was happening. And we got him into a detox. He safely detoxed, but he had that rebound anxiety from the withdrawal and checked himself out, so angry. And that whole, my point of view at that time was like, gosh darn it. And now I'm a nurse. I know exactly what you're doing to your body. Please stop. You're going to kill yourself. Stop. And I went into that like I can save him. And I still struggle with those feelings of, you can't get sober. You have to decide to do that. No one can make you get sober. And gosh, I tried. And I kind of wish it was kind of tough on him. So going back to like did that change it didn't change the way I drank at that time because I didn't associate my drinking as bad. It was just his.
Yeah, which is so many people share that too. Like somebody else in their life, or maybe the movies or whatever it is, or somebody they heard about, or somebody else in the family is drinking maybe more out in the open, or it looks like something that you would think a quote unquote alcoholic or problem drinker would look like. And if mine doesn't look like that, then there's nothing to see here. The most interesting thing about that whole thing is that this all lives on a spectrum. And it's like when we're in that moment, we don't kind of like look into the future of like, okay, I started when I was, say, 16 and I had 2 beers. In college, it ramped up a little bit. When I started a career in the real world, and I'm just giving a random example here, it ramped up a little bit more. Like but we can't connect all of the dots to say, okay, like I'm going in that direction. You know, it might be taking a couple of years, but it is really hard sort of in the earlier days, or if we don't see all these external consequences, or if we're not drinking out of a paper bag under a bridge, to say like, hey, there is definitely something that is not good here. Very relatable for a lot of people.
Yeah, I was, yeah, I didn't even consider mine a problem. I'm like, I'm a nurse now. I'm not, no, mine, I just, have a drink here and there. I don't drink for 24 hours, 7 days straight. Yeah, so I was pretty tough on him.
Yeah.
So,
You mentioned another thing that I was curious about too,
yeah.
is that, I mean, if you want to get and stay sober, you have to do it for yourself. I mean, why do you think that is? Like, what's the reasoning is why that's important?
Because it's such hard work. I think you have to really want it. And I think if someone else is trying to force you to do it, I've asked my husband this. I'm like, why didn't you say something to me? He's like, because you would have told me to fuck off. I'm like, yeah, you're right. And it's almost like the more someone else tells you, sometimes there's this push. And it's also that you talk a lot about that denial. That denial is a huge roadblock. But I think it's so hard. It's so hard. It's like you have to really want it. And if you're doing it for someone else, I think you're not going to do it with your whole heart. And that, for me, that is what sobriety took. I had to put my whole heart and soul into it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think if we could do it for other people or inspire other people or like move them forward, I think there's situations in both of our lives, the one with your dad and me with many of people that are no longer with us as well, that I've worked with over the years, that I for sure would have done whatever I could have done to, get them started. And I think you're right. I mean, it is so hard. You have to be interested in doing it yourself. At times the whole journey forever is not, this big uphill climb of the mountain every single day, day in and day out. But there's tough moments. There really is, especially at the beginning. And without our own sort of investment or interest in doing it, like I think it's very tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I tried so hard to help him. I would have done anything to help him. And there was a period of time where I didn't talk to him, about 7 months, because he was in the middle of a binge when I had my first child. And that was in 2014. And gosh, I was mad. It was how dare you choose alcohol over the birth of your first grandchild? Like, how dare you? And I was so angry. And I ended up working through that and letting that go. But I could just tell alcohol it was like affecting his brain. His like thought process was starting to get bizarre. And it was the summer of 2015, July. And my mom went on a cruise to Alaska with my sister and her husband and my brother's son. And they were gone, and she came home to a dark house with mail piled up and found my dad dead on my sister's bed. And he was in the middle of a binge. There were bottles everywhere. He'd fallen in the bathtub, I think, and cut his head. And I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible. And I really, really struggled with that on a personal level. Like, even knowing that alcohol took his life, like, I started to cope with alcohol. At his funeral, we had the whole the whole place was stocked with booze. I remember one of my mom's friends there, bless his heart, but he was like, I will make sure your hand is never empty. And I remember, and my uncle was so intoxicated, he had problems with alcohol too, that he was throwing up in a trash can and had to get taken home. I mean, I remember having a moment at the celebration after the funeral that, like, God, are we all really just getting wasted to celebrate my dad who just died tragically of
Yeah.
alcoholism? That was, I think, those seeds of my drinking, because, like I said, when I became a nurse, I started drinking at the work stress, I started drinking at my schedule. Then I became a new mom. I started drinking at the stress of parenthood. I was sober for obviously for my pregnancies and the breastfeeding, but that's when my moderation started. Like, how many drinks can I have before I have to breastfeed again? Or is it, that's when I started counting drinks, and I started looking up. I'd had a friend or two had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and older moms, and I started to think I'm an older mom because I was 35 when I had my first. What if my pregnancy and all the estrogen, and the pregnancy causes cancer, not the drinking. Um, I started, and I had my first Cooper back in 2014. So that's when the seeds were planted. But boy, did it really ramped up. I had a lot
Yeah.
of trauma with my dad's passing. And again, I guess to go back to that quickly, I took on that role of I will take care of everything. I will field all the phone calls. I will help my mom organize. I'll get the picture of him. I'll do all the poster boards with pictures of him, like, growing up, and my firstborn was only a year and a half. But I took on that role and didn't process really like I should have. I drank at it. So,
I'm just wondering too, like when it sounds like anyway, you've identified this like 2014, having your son, you noticed a shift. I mean, well, even starting nursing, you noticed a shift about how you're drinking. Then this other stuff is kind of coming into your life, and I'm picking up on it anyway.
yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts, and maybe not dealing with it in the healthiest of ways. All of these situations that are coming up, right? Maybe leaning more and more into drinking at things. Like, is that close?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because I think I had a new job that was stressful, and I'm a new mom. All of that combined, I really fell into that mommy wine culture. Gosh, I just, on my social media, I just had a memory from 9 years ago pop up, like something along the lines of, am I anyone that, thinks wine is the magic that makes you a better parent? And I just look at that like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'd have my glass of wine in the evening while I'm getting the kids ready for bed. And then I would want them to go to bed, like, just go to bed so I can sit on the couch and drink my wine and zone out with the show. Yeah, I definitely, my drinking, with periods of stopping with pregnancies, when I had to stop with my first pregnancy, I remember I was a raging bitch about it. Like, my husband will tell you, I had so, like, why I'm the one that has to stop drinking? That's so unfair. I mean, what a selfish place to be in. Like, I was so blessed with this pregnancy, and in the beginning, that was a huge issue for me, letting go of alcohol. And then once I had Cooper, I think I asked for a beer in postpartum. Like, I wanted a beer. I would nurse, and then, okay, I have a little bit of time to have this beer so it'll clear. Just that whole thought process, how can I work booze back into my life? I've had this break pregnant. And then, I had another child, and my daughter, in 2016, and then another child, my son, in 2019, which was then followed by COVID. So now I'm not breastfeeding. Once I weaned my third, I wasn't breastfeeding. I wasn't pregnant. We weren't planning to have any more kids. And then it was like COVID hit, and that extra stress. And then it was like, I have my body back, and I have given so much of myself to this family. I feel like I've lost myself. I deserve to just do whatever the hell I want. And it was like, I felt like the pendulum had gone way over this way with me not taking care of myself. And so, here, let me take care of myself over here and drink. That's self care. That's what I thought. And it was just like one glass of wine at night turned into two, turned into the hangover is so bad the next morning. I'm going to have, a drink at lunch or maybe even a mimosa. I mean, I loved an excuse to go out to breakfast and, start having mimosas. Day drinking was the best. But that mommy wine culture had a huge impact on me. We all thought that. In my neighborhood, I ended up putting together this little like couch area in our front yard, and we put this white picket fence around the front grass yard. And when my third was little and crawling, he could be safe out in the front yard while I had neighbors over to drink. It's like, oh, here we can be outside and the kids can play and we can have our drinks. And then I was drinking in the neighborhood, and that was very easily accessible. I would go and hang out thinking that was my self-care, hanging out with these women and drinking, leaving my family alone in the house. At the time, I didn't see anything wrong with that. And I have a lot of shame and sadness over that, feeling like I needed to escape my family. A lot of shame over that. But
Yeah.
everything I would say, COVID, we as labor and delivery, we were on the front lines. We had a lot of we saw a lot of it on our unit. We had pregnant moms getting COVID and very sick. And we were floated, some of us, to a COVID unit. And it was scary. I had little kids. I had a baby at home, and I would come in through the garage and strip all my clothes. And hopefully my husband had left a towel for me. And I'd throw my clothes directly in the washing or the washing machine. I was going to say dishwasher, the washing machine, and go straight in the shower. I mean, we didn't
Yeah.
know. And so there was all that stress too. And then it made it, I mean, my work schedule didn't change. I wasn't working from home. I still had to go into work, and now I needed babysitters to come into the house because my kids weren't going to school. That was stressful. I wouldn't say the schedule affected, made my drinking easier. It was more the stress.
All of the unknown. Kind of share about that. Curious to understand how you're feeling about yourself as you go through this. I mean, even I think, like you said earlier, the hindsight's 2020, right? We reflect back, right, on your dad's celebration of life, having all of this stuff out in the front yard, like all of these sort of scenarios where when I think if you look back now, you'd say, okay, we did the drinking thing shouldn't have fit into all of this stuff. But when you're going through it, you mentioned something that a lot of people share is that you just don't see it. You don't have any idea that all of that you could do all of this stuff completely different. But how are you feeling about yourself? I mean, you're juggling a gazillion different things here, the kids, the job, COVID, the social life too that you're plugging into, drinking a lot. I mean, how do you feel on the inside, like with the masks peeled off?
Oh, I was like crumbling. I mean, I just equate it to like I had my chin just barely above water. I was barely holding it together. And I thought, alcohol was that like glue was going to hold me together. And I kept thinking things were going to, it'll get better. I'm just in the trenches. Things are going to get better. But little did I know that the more I exposed my body to alcohol, the more my anxiety went up, the more my depression went up, the more my self hate, my self doubt, I hate what I did last night. I hate how I spoke to my husband. I hate how I texted that person. You wake up with all that shame, and I never want, I don't want to be that person, but I'm in a tough place right now and I need the alcohol. I will tone it down later. That's what I kept telling myself. Like there's always time to tone it down, but right now life is hard. So I deserve to drink. Life is hard. I'm going to be okay. I'm just going to get through this rough patch. And I can't, I know you've said this like pickles walking down the street or a cucumber's walking down the street and turns into a pickle, but you don't really know where. I couldn't tell you where, but before I knew it, like my hangovers were so bad. I was waking up in the middle of the night, like that 3 a.m. panic, anxiety, and I was needing like a shot of whiskey I started drinking hard alcohol to get rid of that panic, anxiety really quickly. I would wake up in the morning and get the kids to school, and then I couldn't wait to get home to either nap it off or have a few drinks to get rid of that. I started hiding alcohol bottles in my closet. Before I knew it, I was drinking just like my dad. I was hiding it all so that I could clean myself up and be ready. Like work was a hard line for me. You know, why my family wasn't a hard line, but I don't know, work was a hard line for me. But I had
Okay.
one weekend where my withdrawal was so bad whenever I tried to stop that I couldn't stop. So I called out all weekend and I told everyone I had the flu and I was vomiting so severely that there's a powerful antiemetic, anti-nausea med called Zofran. Didn't touch me, and it was terrible. It was terrible. I mean, all the stuff I'd seen my dad do, all the stuff,
Yeah.
and
Are
then
you are you
I
thinking?
just
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I wanted to show you that I was in the middle when I was in the middle of all of that. My daughter Lucy drew me this picture and gave it to me. And I remember thinking and looking at it, you know, she thinks I'm just sick and she loves me and wants me to get better. And I went right back to that little girl with my dad and trying to save my dad. And I'm like, why am I putting all of this on her? This is my shit. I need to handle my shit. She's just a child. I need to get my shit together for my family. And that was the first time I really scared myself. And I will say, in the middle of that particular binge, I know you have a question. And this is heavy. This is heavy. And I want to share this because I know that it's important to for other people to know when and if they've had these feelings that they're not alone. But I honestly was so sick in the middle of all that and then so shameful when I saw that picture that I looked at a bottle of Tylenol PM and I thought, you know what, maybe I could just make this all go away. And but then I even Googled how much would I have to take to make this all go away. And you know what comes up on Google. And then I thought, you know what, if I don't do it right, I'm going to kill my kidneys and be on dialysis. That was my nursey brain. And that snapped me out of it. That was the only time I had those thoughts. But it was scary. It was scary. You were
Yeah.
going to ask me something.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that too, because it can feel that hopeless at times, like there's no way out, like you're completely stuck, and
Hmm.
then the things that maybe we're trying just don't work. And this is, yeah, it just strips the joy. I mean, there's an old expression too that alcohol gives you wings and then takes them away. You know,
Hmm.
I even kind of thought of that when you were sharing about your dad, of like the happy times and you're at the parties and he's enjoying himself, and that's when he's feeling the best. And then that sort of shifts right to that other spot where it takes them away. And then it's like really hard, if not impossible, to like get to that joyous part of life for the everyday small things. Like that seems to just be gone, and it's just drinking and drinking. I was just thinking about too, as you're kind of sharing, all this stuff and how you felt. And it's really hard for people to sort of pinpoint exactly sort of when things shifted too. But like, what was that like internally when you noticed yourself leaning more into drinking, and then you're going through this and it's really hitting you? It seems like in this sort of stretch of your life, physically, mentally, maybe a lot harder than it was before. And do you ever think throughout this of maybe the $1 million question, like, how in the heck did I end up here? I mean, you have, college, grad school, job, new job, family. I think from the outside looking in, I mean, that's what people kind of aspire for. Of course, when you have all of this, I mean, you outgrow drinking and, really plug into this. Like, any thoughts there?
I, it was I felt like I was trapped. The thought of quitting, I couldn't see my life like without it. It was part of everything I did. But then it had turned into this terrible like it wasn't fun anymore. And I'm like, can I get through? I mean, my brain really did think, can I somehow work myself out of drinking badly, like this bad part, and go
Yeah.
back to just drinking for fun? That shame, like there was just so much shame. I was making terrible decisions. I had a bar, I wouldn't go past it, and then I'd go past it. And then I kept putting the bar, I'm not bad unless I do that. And then I would do something really stupid and shameful. And it just I got in such a hole. It was like I dug myself into such a hole that getting out felt impossible. It really, really did. I tried to get sober that after that first binge. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah.
Completely.
When was
Yeah.
this? What year was this when you
This
tried?
was this was December of 2024. So we're in 2026. So January of 2025 is when I tried to get sober the first time. And, I broke down crying and asked a friend, I needed help. I can't quit drinking. But I do remember getting the feedback of like, why don't you just stop for a month and then maybe you can have, a glass of wine again with dinner or something. But I
Yeah.
white knuckled it. I mean, I remember telling my husband, like, you imagine if you could never have cheesecake ever again. I can never have alcohol. I'm like, okay, I'm really going to try to get it out of my life. But then I went like 30 days without drinking, white knuckling it, really not happy. And we had a trip planned for my husband's birthday to Cancun with another family for their 50th birthdays. And it was all inclusive. I'm like, how can I not drink on an all inclusive? I thought, you know what? I've proven to myself that I cannot drink for 30 days. We should just go enjoy ourselves. I went right back to drinking like I was, having blackouts and yelling. My poor husband, I remember yelling at him at a dinner in front of all kinds of people. I'm honestly can't even remember what I was yelling him about, but he told me I ruined that trip. So I came home with a lot of shame and quit drinking again. And then that trip was mid-February. And then March, I got invited to go on an island trip with a friend. I had to kind of move mountains to make it happen. She was on a work trip and I went and there was a lot of working and I was by myself. So I had a pity party and I'm like, you know what? I can have another drink. And I ended up drinking the entire trip. We got in an argument. The trip ended not because of the argument, but sooner than anticipated. I had a pity party coming home. I drank the entire way home and was not able to see a predator. And on the way home from that trip, this was the end of March, I was sexually assaulted. And that kind of put the nail in my coffin. That at that time, I kept trying to get sober and it was just like I can't handle this life right now. Now I feel like the dirt has come over my head. I don't see a way out. And I got home from that trip at like 11 o'clock, crying hysterically, told my husband what had happened. I said, get the whiskey, get the whiskey. And I just shot after shot after shot. And my mom was in town with the kids, and I just was on a 24/7 drinking cycle. I could not stop. And there was a weekend. My daughter, she had friends that were in a showcase at a big event center here in town. They were like dancers. It's a dance studio. And I took her to go see that, and I couldn't even stay sober there. And I remember thinking, oh gosh, the moms all know, I'm trashed, and why am I trashed at this dance thing? And I finally got home. I got home from that. That was a Tuesday night, and it was Wednesday morning. My husband said, "This drinking, you've been drinking again," because I kind of had that like I'm kind of slowing down, I'm kind of stopping thing going on, and I said yes. Just pour everything out. Just pour it out. I can't even have it in the house. And that was my no big. The assault was, I went another. So that happened the end of March. I drank on and off through April, trying to hide and say that I could moderate. No one saw the really bad drinking. I was doing that when people were out of the house, hiding bottles in the closet again, drinking. I drank all my husband's like expensive whiskey. So this was May. That was May 21st, that morning that I woke up and he said that to me, are you drinking again? And I was done. I was done. I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm like, I was so fucking scared of like what the future held, but I knew at the rate I was going, my dad in his, I couldn't save my dad in his death. I really feel like, and my cousin and I got really emotional about this, but I feel like in his death, he gave me that gift. He gave me that gift that this is not what might happen, Megan. This is what's gonna happen to you. Don't follow in my footsteps. And I looked at this again and I'm like, I have to do this for my kids. I cannot do to them what happened to me. I know he didn't mean to do that. It was not a vicious thing. Alcoholism is a asshole. But that was that morning, I had so much rebound anxiety. I felt like I was jumping out of my skin. I mean, I ended up, I probably should have detoxed in a facility. The nurse and me, I had some gabapentin at home. I took that and detoxed myself. But I had like the severe shakes, the rebound anxiety, the hallucinations. So I do not recommend to anyone listening to do that yourself. Don't do what I did. But I made it through. And I had a dear friend come and sit with me through my anxiety, and I was crawling out of my skin. And she connected me through a friend of a friend. I got connected with another nurse in the town next door to me who had a similar battle as I did, had children, was in the healthcare profession. And she told me to go to AA. So that, she told me to do 90 and 90. So that's what I did. And about 2 months into sobriety, I found your group, Sober Motivation, and between those two, community, 100% was what that was my like higher power, my guiding light out of the dark. That first meeting that I went to that night on the 21st, a Thursday night, the AA group here in my town. I mean, they just embraced me. I cried the entire meeting. I was a complete mess. I mean, I was still detoxing. And then the next day, I took my oldest to Bottle Rock in Napa, which is an all-day concert. And I'm like, oh my God, how can I go to a concert sober? But they have good food. Focus on the food. I didn't want him to miss out. So I went. And that experience, being with people who spoke my language and who had gone through what I had gone through. I mean, I heard my story, and everyone in that room who embraced me. I wasn't broken. I wasn't, I didn't have the plague. I was worth saving. I had a disease and I saw a way out. And then I started having these experiences. I thought I could never have fun without alcohol. God, I can't go to a concert. I can't go on vacation. I can't go camping. I can't go out on the lake in a ski boat. But here's the summer coming, and I had all this stuff stacked up to do. I went to Bottle Rock. I stayed sober. Green Day played at the end, and my son and I, it's a core memory for us. They were amazing. If anyone's ever seen them live, they sound just as good as they do on the radio. But I would have been shit-faced at that concert. I would have missed the entire, ending or last act. We went to Catalina a week. I was a sober a week. That's an island off of Southern California. The ferry on the way over to the island, I was like, why are all these people dressed up? And they're all celebrating. Well, it was the 10th anniversary of the Catalina wine mixer. So everyone was getting like wasted all weekend. But I'll tell you, I saw that vacation like I'm not searching for the next bar. I'm not all the focus. I would have been drinking at the airport. I would have been drinking on the boat. I would have landed there in Catalina. Where can we go get lunch? Where can I drink? That space in my head, I finally had space to like, what can we do with the kids? What activities can we do together? What memories can we form? I didn't realize how much time I was spending focusing on alcohol. It was taking so much of my life away. And I just started building those new muscles. I was doing all these things I never thought, traveling, concerts, I never thought I could do sober. And I was doing them and I was enjoying them even more. I didn't feel like shit. And I didn't have all that, focus. But
Yeah, that helps huge. Yeah, when you do, I mean, we spend so much time trying to drink or figure out when we're drinking, hiding drinking, recover from drinking. It's like, oh my gosh, when you remove that, I mean, it's like a whole nother life kind of opens up. I'm curious though, towards the end of your story there, where you say you connect with this other nurse that is like, go to
yeah.
AA. What made you so like open to listen now? I mean, you must have heard AA before, like this point in your life, and here you were willing to go. I mean, what was that shift like?
So the first two times I tried to get sober, it was about what was getting taken from me. And it was, I had this woe is me attitude. And then I had just been so broken and I was so low. I had finally just gotten to the point where I knew that I wasn't someone that could drink anymore. And it was, for whatever reason, my body had changed, and I was just so ready to be done with all of the heaviness and all of the yuck and all of the chaos. I was so done. And I had gone to, as a nursing student, it's like a requirement to go to an AA meeting and just listen, or NA. And I went to a few meetings, and I just thought, she's telling me, she said, if you do what I do, Megan, you will get better. That's what I bless her. She was an angel to me. If you do 90 and 90. And I was like, what do I have to lose? My life is terrible right now. I cannot keep doing this. I was desperate. I had the gift of desperation, really. And I was so done with alcohol. It wasn't doing anything for me anymore. I was drinking just to get rid of the withdrawal symptoms. I wasn't getting that fun. I was never fun anymore. I was angry and mad when I drank, and I was just drinking to maintain my ability to function. I mean, the rational brain in me finally went like, okay, Megan, you are done. You have got to let this go. This is not doing you any favors. You need help. You can't do this yourself. You need help.
Yeah. And that's where I think that for a lot of people it gets to. But a lot of people, I think, try on their own. Like, yeah, I'll just because the shame, I think, is so heavy, right? Like, how could I have possibly let myself get to this point, Like, that's what I think that I thought anyway. I'll just quietly, I'll figure this out and nobody needs to know, and I'll move on with my life. I'll either one of two things will happen. I'll figure it out, how to drink, like maybe when I first started. Like, that would have been, at the time, I would have thought that would have been so sweet. And number two, that I'll just kind of quit and just tell people whatever they want to hear if they ever ask me why I'm not drinking. But I'm not going to talk to anybody about any of my struggles or how life was or how bad I felt about myself, or I'm not going to talk with anybody about that. I'll just quietly figure it out. I mean, I tried those two things. Neither of them worked. Both of them were disastrous. Both of them were miserable. But I talk with so many people that they just have this deep-rooted desire to do this all on their own, but keep ending back up at the starting line. And I'm just like, man, just get some help from somebody somewhere, therapy or meetings or community, whatever. Just talk with somebody. Was therapy ever part of your journey too?
It was. So I sought out a type of therapy. It was recommended to me by one of the physicians I work with, called EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprogramming. It's I had to take a leap of faith with it, and I highly recommend it for anyone suffering from trauma. But I went to it from the perspective of dealing with the assault, but it ended up, and I was still drinking when I started. But the magic in that therapy happened when I quit drinking and was doing the therapy at the same time. And that helped me really unravel some patterns, like with my childhood. And I kind of started to see my pathway. So yes, the therapy really helped. I'm still doing that now. Yeah. And we all, with my family and, this alcoholism and all the chaos in my younger life, there was this, people just didn't really talk about that kind of stuff back then. It wasn't, so we just kind of kept it to ourselves. It was like, we don't unload our problems on other people. But for me, part of my recovery process was getting over that hump of silence and accountability. That was going to AA, that was starting my accountability, and with my family. I'm like, I can't do this to my kids. I can't promise them I'm going to get sober and then not. So I have to put all these things in place that are going to help me and keep me accountable. So that was, I ended up sharing over that summer. I kind of protected my new sobriety. Those first couple of months, I really protected it because I didn't want anyone influencing me either way. But at the end of the summer, when I think I joined your group in July, and maybe in the second meeting with you guys, I shared on social media. I just ripped that Band-Aid off. For me, it was important this is my new life. This is not a joke. I felt like if I'm telling people, I can't go back on it. before, when I was trying to get sober by myself, when you're quiet, if you decide to change your mind, if you haven't really told anyone, it's so easy to change your mind. No one knows that you were trying to be sober, so no one's going to criticize you for having a drink. But I really felt like I needed help and safety so that I wouldn't fall back, because I knew it was going to be hard. It was my whole identity. So I shared on social media, got a wonderful, really wonderful, loving response from everyone. And I've had a lot of people come out of the woodworks, that I didn't even know were struggling, which makes me feel good to help other people. But I'm so blessed to have a wonderful work family that is so supportive of me. And my own family, I mean, my husband, God bless him. I really put him through the ringer, and I'm working the 12 steps. AA and the 12 steps are not for everyone. My sponsor is amazing. I adore her. She's really helping me, and I'm on my 9th step. I will say, even, if AA is not for you, there's a lot, like you kind of look back at your old patterns. What was I doing that was not serving me? Okay, let me own up to my shit, and then let me kind of start living according to my values, make my apologies, and now live according to my core values and have humility. And so that's important to me, because I got so off. I got so far from who I really wanted to be and thought I was. And now I'm living with honesty. I mean, I am brutally honest now. I was lying. I would lie to you about why I was going, out in the backyard. I mean, I was lying about everything. And it's hard to keep up with all your lies. I'm like, I am so done with all of that. What you get is what you see. And that confidence that I was craving as, a 12-year-old girl in junior high that I thought I found in alcohol, I have in ACEs now. I finally feel like I am comfortable in my own skin. I am comfortable in who I am. And I don't have that imposter syndrome anymore. I was like, gosh, I don't deserve to be working in the vet school. I don't deserve to be a nurse. There's all these nurses that have it in their long line of families. They want to be a nurse from kindergarten. I'm just faking it. I just don't deserve to be a mom. Don't deserve to be a wife. It's like, yeah, you know what? Yes, I do. This is who I am. And my confidence, it's just skyrocketed. And my anxiety has gone way down, and I just have this new love for life. I really feel there's that analogy. I know Melissa talks about it a lot. The newborn baby, you're like being born again. You're looking at life differently. Like, how does taking one thing out of your life roll out in this? I'm not saying it's easy. It's fucking hard. I've done a lot of shit. I actually did 120 meetings in 120 days. While I was vacationing, I do at least 2 or 3 of your meetings every week. Your Toronto meetup was amazing. I just I had to make some mountains move for this next trip this summer, and I've already done it.
Love it. Yeah, it was so great to connect with everybody in Toronto. I mean, what you mentioned there earlier too, so much great stuff there, in your life that has changed, but it's one of the things I kind of refer to as burning the boats, sharing on social media. Not that everybody needs to do that, but I mean, hearing your story here, Megan, and not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I think a lot of us lead this way. We're proud of the drinkers we became. I mean, we're the party animals. Everybody around us knows that.
Yeah.
But when we get sober, for some reason, we feel a little bit weird. We don't want anybody to know that we're not drinking anymore, or that maybe we're living this different way of life. And I think us crossing over that, and what I refer to as sort of burning the boats, make this real. Like, I didn't have a problem with everybody knowing that I was drinking, and it was reckless and it was craziness, and I was getting in all this trouble. And I really had to reflect within in my sobriety, like, why was I so worried what other people thought when I was doing the right thing for my life, when I was doing what was best for me? But I was so uncomfortable. And so I love that aspect. And not that everybody needs to share on social media, teach their own. Yeah. But I really see that as one of the burning the boats moments, to where you're closing that door for what was. And if you go back to drinking, that's going to be friction. It's going to be like, okay, now I told everybody I'm not. It might buy you, if you ever come to that spot. I know it definitely bought me some time to really think things through about, okay, everybody knows the direction I'm heading. If I go back there, that's going to be weird. Do I want to have those conversations? No, I don't. Okay. Stay with
Yeah.
this journey, like
Yeah.
you don't want to end up in there, but yeah, it becomes kind of something secretive, and back to that too. If like teach their own, everybody go about this thing, whichever way makes sense for you and works. But it's like,
Yeah.
I see people that really make big progress. Like they own this. This was my life. This is how I'm living now. And the rest is yet to come, but it's just putting it out there. I think that offers, like you said, you needed accountability because doing it in the shadows, doing it quietly never worked before. And for most people, it doesn't work. Thank you, Megan, so much for jumping on here, sharing your story with all of us. Excited for the next meetup too. Glad you were able to, move mountains. Anything that you look back over, all of these years that has really helped your perspective or some insight, maybe to share with somebody else who's listening, maybe a mom out there, maybe somebody who's into healthcare, right? Where it's kind of like, do I even share about this or do I just silently continue to struggle until I lose it all? Or, maybe somebody that can relate to you.
That alcohol promises you a bunch of things, but they're all lies. That you can, that your life will be so much better without the presence of alcohol. And your experiences are so much more authentic. And overall, I mean, I want my level of happiness for everyone. And it really is that simple of just removing this one thing. It's a liar, and if you are struggling and you feel like you have to have a drink every evening, if you can't go an evening without having that to wind down, think about, how you feel after drink 2 or drink 3 and the next morning. Like that is your body physically reacting to a toxin. Life just gets better. It really does. You can have fun without alcohol. That's going to be my tagline. You can have fun without alcohol.
Yeah, I love that tagline because that is what people believe. I mean, I field a ton of messages every week and I have for years and I've worked with a ton of people. And that is sort of a very common thing is that after I quit, the fun, the joy in life is over. And if you're not to that place yet, I can pretty much guarantee you one thing. Alcohol will take any sort of joy from your life. You might have a little bit of it if you're early in the game, but there will be a point where you'll be wondering what happened to all of that. It will be gone. And the only time you will feel somewhat normal is when you're drinking, but then you'll hate drinking. It's very strange how it works out. And the joy is completely gone. And alcohol sort of acts as this gatekeeper of, oh, you want to socialize with your friends? Well, you got to go through me first. Oh, you want to do that? You got to go through me first. And then, like Megan shared there too, every activity, everything, before you even realize it, everything is involving alcohol. And I mean, you can get off of this train at any time. You don't have to ride it to the last stop. You don't it just doesn't usually improve on its own. So thank you again, Megan.
I thought about like people spend so much time focusing on their health and what they, organic food or exercise, but then make time for this class 1 carcinogen as like a reward for eating well and doing all this exercise. I mean, I had no idea it was that bad for you. So I'll leave that little morsel out there. And then I'm wearing my McCarthy shirt. I was Megan McCarthy growing up. It's my dad's name. And I would love to dedicate the show to my dad, John McCarthy.
Yeah. Question there too. I mean, what's your reasoning or importance there for you, for your dad and what role he has played in your life and even in your story today?
I can see this disease through his eyes now, and I have so much compassion for him. It takes the lives of so many people, and it is a disease. And I didn't see it from that perspective as a child, growing up. I only saw my dad being edgy and, I thought it was a willpower thing. I have so much compassion for him, and I just love him, and it makes me sad that his childhood trauma rolled out into his own life. That he had those demons he just couldn't get away from. So yeah,
Yeah.
I understand this disease now from both perspectives, as a victim of it and as the perpetrator.
Yeah. And has that helped you have some grace for yourself as well on this journey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has. And that was hard at first. The perfectionist in me it gets so angry that I even let myself go through this. But yes, it'll get anyone. It doesn't discriminate. Men, women, famous people, the gentleman under the pier with the bag. It just doesn't, a brown bag. It doesn't discriminate. It'll get anyone.
Yeah, so true. Well, thanks again, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really, Brad, what you do is so amazing, and you and your group and your podcast have played such a important role in my sobriety. So I'm incredibly grateful. Forever grateful, Brad. Brad, you're my hero.
Thank you.
I'm going to get my own hat. That's a inside joke.
Well, there it is. Another incredible episode here on the podcast. Huge shout out to Megan for all of the progress that she has made. It's been incredible to get to know Megan, have her be part of the Sober Motivation community, hang out in Toronto, hang out again this summer. So proud of the progress that she's made. So proud of her for jumping on here and sharing her story with all of us. I'll drop her Instagram contact down in the show notes below. So if you want to reach out to her and let her know thank you, that would be incredible. And I'll see you on the next one.